Some Northland high schoolers put their culinary skills to the test today. They're part of the region's career and technical education culinary programs. And they held a burger cooking competition over at Lake Superior College. One of those students, Ethan Christensen, is a junior over at Duluth East and was on the winning team today. He described the theme of his team's burger.
I think it's just because it was unique and not many people have seen a burger like this, and just the balance of flavors with acid, spice, sweetness, saltiness, just like it's a general powerhouse combo.
A big congrats to Ethan and the team there. Duluth School Superintendent John Magus was also on hand. He shared why high school programs like these are so important.
You think about Duluth, you think about the needs we have here, the tourism industry. There's a lot of need for quality future employees and also for people to be able to have career options as they move forward.
Magus said he thought all today's burgers would have impressed him if he ordered them at a local restaurant. You know, I got to do theater growing up in high school and choir as well, but having a culinary program like that would be super cool back in the day.
You know,